Hello and welcome to the Supportive Care Services live Lunch and Learn series. My name is Vonsal Hunter, Marketing Specialist with Ironwood Cancer and Research Centers. We've created a series of Lunch and Learn videos to help you be successful when navigating your cancer journey. Our Supportive Care Services Department is here to help you get actively involved in your healing process. For more information about the Supportive Care Services Department, please email socialwork@ironwoodcrc.com. Today's featured speaker is Cathie Costin, registered nurse and certified medical exercise specialist through the American Council of Exercise. Today she will discuss survivorship, exercising like a survivor. Let's all welcome Cathie.
My name is Catherine Costin. I'm a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse for over 34 years. I also went back to school a couple of years ago and got an associate degree in exercise science. And with that, I also took a certification through the American Council on Exercise. So I'm a certified medical exercise specialist. I'm also a cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with colon cancer about 6 years ago. Thank goodness it was diagnosed early. I did have my treatment here at Ironwood Cancer Centers, the Chandler office. So I'm very familiar with Ironwood and very, very thankful for all the physicians and the nurses who took care of me, wonderful care of me during my treatment. So I'm very happy to be back here today talking about a subject that I think is very important for cancer survivors. And so we'll go ahead. I'm going to share my screen. So this is survivorship, navigating the new normal. And we're going to be talking about exercise basics for cancer survivors. Before I actually talk about exercise though, I just want to talk a little bit about overall wellness, because I think that's what it really is all about, is feeling well, having quality of life. And the dictionary defines wellness as the quality or state of being in good health, especially as an actively sought goal. And it defines health as the condition of being sound in body, mind, and spirit. So the goals of overall wellness include goals which promote physical, psychological, and social well-being for the individual. Quality of life. So now we're going to talk a little bit about physical activity and exercise. So what is physical activity? Well, it can be defined as bodily movement produced by skeletal muscle that results in energy expenditure. And that's kind of a fancy way of saying that it is all about movement. It's all about the activities of daily living that we do, our household chores, the work that we do, the leisure time activities that we do. Getting up in the morning, brushing our teeth, making our bed, things like that. Exercise is defined as physical activity that is planned, structured, and repetitive, and has the objective of improving or maintaining physical fitness. So exercise is a part of physical activity, but I think it's important to realize that it's only a part. And the goal of a healthy lifestyle is to be as physically active as possible. It doesn't really do us a whole lot of good if we exercise for, say, 30 minutes in the morning and then spend the rest of the day either sitting behind a desk working or sitting on the couch watching television or reading a book. The whole goal is to be as physically active as possible. Now, there's a government department called the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and this department publishes physical activity guidelines every 10 years for Americans. And the latest guidelines were published in 2018. And some of the key components of those guidelines say that adults should move more and sit less, which is what I was just talking about. And the guidelines say that any activity is better than none, and it all counts. Guidelines also say that for substantial health benefits, adults should do between 150 to 300 minutes a week of moderate intensity, or 75 to 150 minutes a week of vigorous intensity. And this is our aerobic physical activity. Or we can do a combination of moderate and vigorous aerobic physical activity. And again, spread that throughout the week. The guidelines also promote muscle strengthening activities of moderate or greater intensity, and those activities should involve all major muscle groups. And the muscle strengthening activities should be done about 2 to 3 times per week. Now, these guidelines are put out again every 10 years, and they're for the average American. So the question is, are these recommendations safe for cancer survivors? Well, that depends. It depends on the condition of the cancer survivor. And I think it's very important to realize that organizations like the American College of Sports Medicine and the American Council on Exercise, when they train people or when they are out educating people, they always recommend appropriate screening for adults before they start an exercise program. And because a cancer diagnosis is considered high risk, not only is appropriate screening done for cancer survivors, but also a medical release form is necessary. So professionals in the fitness industry are going to work with professionals in the healthcare industry. And the goal is to provide safe and effective exercise programs for all clients, and especially for cancer survivors. And now, in the fitness industry, there are people who have worked with cancer survivors and people who have not. I recommend that if you go and work out at a gym or try to find somebody who can help you with an exercise program, help you develop an exercise program, I highly recommend that you try to find somebody who does have experience with cancer survivors. Okay, now we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of exercise, and we're going to start with aerobic exercise. So what exactly is aerobic physical fitness? Well, the word aerobic refers to oxygen, and the cardiorespiratory system is the body's system for taking in oxygen and removing waste. So we're talking about the heart, the blood vessels, and the lungs here, to put it very simply. The cardiorespiratory training and aerobic physical fitness are often used interchangeably. Now, we have talked about intensity when we're referring to aerobic physical fitness or cardiorespiratory fitness. And what is the best way to determine intensity without lab equipment? So how do you know if you're working at the moderate intensity level or the vigorous intensity level? Well, the simple way without lab equipment is to use what's called the talk test. So if you are exercising at a moderate level, usually an individual can exercise, but they can talk while they're exercising, but they cannot sing. If they're exercising at a vigorous level, then usually they can't say more than a few words without trying to catch a breath. So you can think about maybe brisk walking as opposed to jogging or running. Usually people who are doing a brisk walk, especially if they're walking with a friend, they can usually continue talking with that friend. But if they're jogging or running with a friend, usually they're not talking. Usually they're too busy trying to catch their breath as they're jogging and running. Now, aerobic physical fitness involves continuous and rhythmic movements of large muscles. So think of your arms and your legs and your abdominal muscles and your back muscles. There are aerobic physical fitness like swimming and aerobic dance that use pretty much all the muscles in the body. But we're talking about those large muscle groups. And some examples here of aerobic physical fitness would be walking and running, swimming, cycling, aerobic dance. Now, when we're talking about aerobic physical fitness, we often use what's called the FIT principle. And FIT is an acronym that stands for frequency, intensity, time, and type. So the frequency, the recommendations are about 3 to 5 days per week. The intensity would be moderate, vigorous, or a combination of the two. The time would be like 30 to 60 minutes of moderate intensity or 20 to 60 minutes of vigorous intensity. And again, the type is those activities that use large muscle groups, like what we just talked about. So if you were to exercise, say, for 30 minutes, 5 days a week of moderate intensity, you would definitely be getting your time in, the recommendation time from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. I also want to take just a few minutes and talk about counting steps. I know that counting steps has become very popular over the past few years, and steps are measured by a pedometer. You've probably seen a number of people wearing those pedometers around their wrist. And I know that many people say, oh, you have to do about 10,000 steps per day in order to stay physically active. Well, if you are a physically active person and you can do 10,000 steps per day, that's wonderful. But if you can't, what you can do is start small and work up. So say you can only do, maybe 1,000 steps a day. That's great. Do 1,000 steps and then try to progress as the days and the weeks go by. Go from 1,000 to 2,000, and then eventually, over time, work up to 7,000 to 10,000 steps per day. And of course, the steps that you include exercising can count for those total steps per day. Okay, now we're going to actually talk about aerobic physical fitness, actually sitting down or starting an aerobic physical fitness program. What should you do? Well, the first thing is you want to do like a 5 to 10 minute dynamic warm-up. We're telling our muscles that we want to get them ready for exercise. And I know the older I get, the more I have to do a dynamic warm-up. Otherwise, my muscles rebel against me. They'll either spasm up on me, or sometimes I'll even cause an injury to myself. And that's not what we want to do. We don't want our muscles to spasm, and we don't want our muscles to get injured. So doing a 5 to 10 minute dynamic warm-up is important. And basically a dynamic warm-up should involve the muscles that you're going to use for the particular aerobic exercise that you're doing. So say, for example, you're going to go for a run. So instead of going out and doing a full run, when you start, just start walking, start doing a brisk walk, and gradually get up. So where you're maybe doing from a brisk walk, you're doing to a light jog, and then from a light jog, when you feel that your muscles are ready, you can actually start doing a full run. After you have done a dynamic warm-up, what we would like to what we recommend is that you get up to a target heart rate, and that you maintain that target heart rate for anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. When I say target heart rates, there are different formulas that you can use to try to find out what your target heart rate is. And I can talk a little bit more about that if anybody has a question about how to actually do that formula. And then after you have worked out and you've maintained your target heart rate for about 15 to 20 minutes, it's important to do a cool down. So you want to start cooling down for about 5 to 10 minutes. So again, if we're using that running scenario, then after you've been running for about 15 to 20 minutes, you want to go ahead and start going back down to a light jog, and then just going to maybe a brisk walk again, doing a couple laps of that so that you give your body time to cool down. After a cool down, this is a great time to do static stretching. Your muscles are nice and warm, and the static stretching will help to prevent your muscles from getting stiff. It helps to keep them nice and flexible. Okay, so we've talked about aerobic fitness, and now we're going to talk about resistance exercise. Now, resistance exercise is, it can be defined as a method of exercise that's designed to enhance musculoskeletal strength, power, and endurance. So remember, aerobic exercise helps to strengthen our heart and our lungs. Resistance exercise helps to keep our muscles and our bones strong. The terms resistance exercise and strength fitness training are often used interchangeably, and there are different training modalities that you can use for resistance exercise. You can use the weight machines that you often find at gyms. You can use free weights, elastic bands, medicine balls, and you can use body weight. Any of those modalities are part of the resistance exercise. Now, resistance exercise has become more popular in recent years, mainly because of the published guidelines have emphasized its importance in overall health and fitness. Some of the benefits include the preservation of bone mass, and this helps to prevent osteoporosis. Also, resistance exercise helps to promote glucose or sugar. Glucose is the medical term for sugar, but it helps promotes the glucose into the muscle cells, and this helps to regulate our glucose metabolism throughout our body. It also helps to preserve muscle mass, and this helps to prevent that muscle wasting, or this what's called the sarcopenia. And muscle wasting is sometimes what we see in patients who've undergone cancer treatment. So resistance exercise can help prevent that muscle, can help preserve the muscle mass and prevent that muscle wasting. Other benefits include it helps to improve balance and helps to prevent falls. And it can also help maintain our functional ability. It helps us to carry out our activities of daily living in older age, and can help us maintain our independence as we get older. Additional benefits for cancer survivors include it may help lower the risk of cancer mortality. There have been a number of studies published that have shown that when you add resistance exercise to an aerobic exercise program, that helps to lower the risk of cancer mortality. And the thought behind that is that because it helps enhance glucose metabolism, it may actually help decrease inflammation throughout the body. And inflammation has been linked to cancer. It also may help prevent fatigue. And I think that's extremely important. I know when I was going through cancer treatment, being able to dance one day a week really helped helped prevent me from getting fatigued, and it also helped me mentally as well. Now, what should a program include? A resistance exercise program should include about 8 to 10 exercises involving major muscle groups. Should have about 2 to 4 sets in each muscle group. Perform about 8 to 12 repetitions for each set. And proper technique and body mechanics should be used to prevent injury. And I think this is where, if you can work out with somebody who's been trained, a personal trainer, they can help you with proper technique and body mechanics, and that can help prevent injury. And resistance exercise should be performed 2 to 3 times per week, allowing about 24 to 48 hours of rest in between days. And this is actually quite important. When we do resistance exercise, it causes little microscopic tears in the muscle. And I know that that sounds bad, but it actually isn't. It is how the muscle actually gets stronger. But it's important for the muscles to have time to repair themselves. So if you can allow 24 to 48 hours in between the time that you're doing the resistance exercise, then that will help your muscles get stronger, but also help your muscles repair themselves so that you don't injure your muscles. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about core, balance, and flexibility exercises. So what exactly is the core? Well, the trunk of the body is often called the core. And the trunk of the body includes those muscles that surround the lower back, the abdominal wall, and the pelvis. Kind of think about the core as from your belly button down to your hips. And core stability is important because it helps individuals keep their balance. It helps to prevent falls. And falls can be very detrimental to aging individuals as well as cancer survivors. Core exercises should be incorporated into the strength fitness program. And they're actually quite easy to do. I don't know if I'll be able to show you any core exercises today, but if you have any questions about them, I can certainly tell you and talk to you a little bit more about them. Flexibility. Okay, what exactly is flexibility? Well, it refers to the ability to move the joints of the body through their full range of motion. And we want to do this without any pain or discomfort. It's an important part of a physical fitness program in that it enhances stability and movement. Flexibility and range of motion are joint specific. So certain joints, like your elbow and your knee, that's only able to move, basically doing a flexion and extension. Other joints like your elbow or other joints like your shoulder and your hip, they're able to move in different planes of the body. So flexibility and range of motion are joint specific. And flexibility and proper body alignment can help prevent pain and injury during exercise. So let's talk about the elements of a flexibility program. Okay, so when you're doing a workout program, remember dynamic warm-up exercises initially, and then after you've done your exercise, your muscles are warmed up, then you can do the static stretching. And the static stretching is that long, slow stretching that we often associate with stretching. And again, static stretches should be performed slowly and through the joint range of motion. Should hold the stretch for about 15 to 60 seconds. And you can do about 2 to 4 repetitions per muscle group. And if you do this after you exercise, or at least doing it 2 times per week, then that helps to keep the body pretty flexible and the body pretty agile. Now, there are some exercises and disciplines that really incorporate flexibility exercises into their program. There's yoga, there's Pilates, there's Tai Chi. And I do believe that Ironwood does have those programs available. I know that they're either through Zoom or through, they're done virtually now because of this pandemic. But, if you can find programs like that and incorporate this into your fitness program, I know that that can be beneficial in helping you keep very flexible. Okay, now what I'd like to do is I'd like to actually show you a little bit about what I've been talking about. And I'm hoping that you can see me on the screen again. So what I'd like to do is just show you a little bit about what I've been talking about. Okay, so I know that you can only probably see half of me. It might be a little hard to see my legs, but I'm going to show you what I mean by a dynamic warm-up. So I'm a dancer. I love to dance. So dancing involves the whole body. So when I do my dynamic warm-up, I usually, start with my shoulders. I roll my shoulders back. And if you want to stand up and do this with me, why don't you do that? It might help you, a little bit. And I roll my shoulders forward. And then I start moving my arms, moving my elbows back. And then I'll start with the whole shoulder, very gently move that shoulder back. Now, if you have neck or shoulder injuries, I would not recommend you doing this. Just a nice, gentle roll. And then you can start going forward. Almost like a swimming motion. And then I like to just kind of do a very gentle twist. And then move my arms up. And then I go down to my hips and I start doing a little hip roll. And then go the other way, just to kind of loosen those hips. Like I said, I do a lot of dancing. I do a lot of ballroom dancing, and that is all hip motions. So I have to warm my hips up before I can actually go out and do it. And then you can, I like to do some squats. Now, when you do a squat, I know you can't see my feet, but your feet should be a little more than shoulder width apart. And you want to make sure that you have good balance. And to do a squat, you want to send your hips back. You don't want to send your knees forward. Okay, you want to protect your knees. So they say never have your knees go over your toes. So doing a squat, you want to send your hips back. And you can put your arms out as well. That might help with helping you to maintain your balance. Then after you do a few squats, then I like to bring my knees up and do what's called high knees. And then I'm going to turn to the side now. I don't know if you can see it, but I do a couple of butt kicks. And that's just what it sounds like. You're taking your foot and you're kicking your behind. I know it looks funny, but actually it really helps to get your muscles moving. And then I do what's called open the door. So I bring my knee up and put it out. I don't know if you can see it very well on the screen, but it's up and out. up and out. And then if you have good balance, you can do what's called the toy soldier. And if you don't have good balance, then you can actually go ahead and put your hand on a stable surface so that you're not going to fall. But it's basically raising your leg and with your opposite hand trying to touch your toes. And if you can't touch your toes, then touch your knee. So if you do this for about 3 to 5 minutes, then you're going to start getting your muscles warm and you're going to start getting them ready for exercise. So after you've done this, you can go ahead and go out and do whatever aerobic exercise you enjoy doing, whether it's running, swimming, cycling, or what I enjoy doing, which is dancing. So, and of course, after that, then you can do the static stretching that we talked about. And I'm actually going to show that in just a minute. I want to show you a little bit about resistance exercise before I actually do the static stretching. So, with resistance exercise, now I've brought my little weights here. Some people think you have to go and you have to be able to lift these big weights in order to do resistance exercise, and that's not true. These little weights are 2-pound weights, and they are actually very good keeping your body flexible and helping to provide all those benefits that resistance exercise does. And I'm going to show you just some things that you can do. You can start out doing what's called the bicep curl. Okay, and that's where you hold your arms close to your body and you just bring your arms up like this, chest level. And again, it's important to do probably about 8 to 12 repetitions of this. I've lost count, so I'm just going to do a few more. So this is a bicep curl. If you turn your hands and have your palms face each other, then this is called a hammer curl. Very easy to do this. You can also alternate. You can do like a bicep curl and then alternate with a hammer curl. Okay, and that works the front part of our arm. Now to work the back part of your arm, I'm going to turn to the side here so you can see. I'm going to do some tricep curls. I'm going to actually kind of stand. I'm going to make sure that I'm firmly, my legs are firmly my feet are firmly on the floor, and that I have I'm standing with my feet a little wider than my shoulders. I want to get good balance. I'm going to bring my arms up to the side and make sure that they're hugging my side. And then I'm going to put my arms back, and then I'm going to do the triceps. I'm going to work my triceps. And you should feel this in the back of your arm. Okay. Now, if you don't have any neck problems or shoulder problems, then you can probably do these next 2 exercises safely. If you do, I would recommend that you not do them until you talk to your doctor about it, because this can put a lot of load on your neck and on your shoulder. But you can also do what's called the overhead press. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's basically doing what it says. You're just pressing overhead. And this exercise is very good, helping us to maintain our functional ability because we actually do a lot of stretching over our head. You know, if you work in the kitchen and you're putting groceries away, oftentimes you have to put them up on high shelves. So this is a very functional exercise. And again, you can switch exercises up. So some people will do like a bicep curl, and then they'll turn around and do an overhead press like that. So it makes it a little bit more interesting. Another exercise that helps keep our shoulders nice and flexible is called the fly. Again, though, if you have neck or shoulder problems, I recommend that you don't do this exercise unless you talk with your doctor first. Okay, so those are just a few exercises that you can do for your upper body. Exercises that you can do for your lower body, again, include like the squat that we were talking about earlier. Again, you want to send your hips back. If you have problems standing and doing a squat, you can also do the chair squats, which is you can actually use a chair. I don't know if you can see this chair very well in this room, but I've got a chair and I have it against the wall. So you want to make sure that you have a chair that's not going to roll out from under you, that it's very stable, but you can actually do chair squats. And you can help pretty much do the same thing. So what you want to do is you want to send your hips back, sit down, and then move forward and use your glutes and your thigh muscles to help bring you back up. So sitting and then bringing you back up. And again, this is also a very functional exercise. And if you have trouble doing a squat without a chair, doing it with the chair can be very beneficial. Also, another exercise that's really good is leg lifts. Again, you can do them sitting in a chair. I don't know if you can see it very well from this, but I'm lifting my leg. And this really helps with your quads. You can do about 10 on one side and then 10 on the other side, or you can alternate. And then the last exercise I want to show you are the calf lifts. Again, you can use a chair to stabilize yourself, but basically it's just going up on the balls of your foot and coming back down. And that helps to keep your calves nice and supple. Now, I don't know if we have time. I'd like to show you some static stretching. Do we have time, Sierra? Or are we out of time?
We have a few more minutes.
Okay, well, let me just show you some static stretching. So after you've done your exercise, after your muscles are nice and warm, then you can actually do some stretching. And what I like to do, I don't know if you can see me here. There we go. So I like to take my arm and I put it up like this. Then I kind of bring it down so that it's in the center of my back. Then I take my other hand and I just give my arm a nice stretch. And again, you can do it between 10 and 60 seconds, depending on what's ever comfortable for you. And just a nice gentle stretch. It doesn't have to be that difficult, that hard. And then when you're ready, do the other arm, put it up, bend your elbow, put your hand in the center of your back, and with your other arm, just give your elbow a nice stretch. And then go ahead and bring your arm across your shoulder and put your other arm up like this. And again, give your arm a nice little stretch. And then I kind of roll my shoulders back and then bring my other arm over and give it a nice stretch. After I do that, I like to put my fingers in back and just give my shoulders and my back and my neck a little stretch. Now, I don't know if you can see this very well, but actually you can also bend over a little bit, send your hips back, and come down so that your back is pretty flat. And this helps to stretch your lower back and your hamstrings, which are the muscles behind your legs, the upper part of your legs. This feels really good to me, especially after I've been dancing. And I don't think we have time, and I know we don't really have a very good view, but you would want to go ahead and continue doing some stretches for your legs as well. So I think that's pretty much it. I think we're pretty much out of time. Do we have time? Does anybody have any questions?
We actually do have a few questions for you here.
Okay.
The first one is, what is the best exercise to do while you are undergoing treatment for cancer?
I think that's an individual choice, but most people, I think, in the fitness industry are going to say, they're going to ask you, what were you doing before? Were you doing a lot of exercising before? Because probably, depending on what type of treatment you're going through, what your energy level is, it may be as simple as walking. Walking is a good exercise. And if you can do that safely, then, that you can certainly start with that. But it's kind of an individual choice, I guess. And that's where it's important to maybe get somebody in the fitness industry, actually talk with them, a personal trainer who has experience working with cancer survivors. They can really help you come up with an exercise program that's individualized for you, that you can do during your cancer treatment.
Great, thank you so much. And one last one, how often should I be exercising each week?
Well, again, it depends on the intensity, but those recommendations are about 30 to 60 minutes if you're doing moderate intensity. And so say you do 30 minutes a day of aerobic exercise 3 days a week. So that's about an hour and a half. And then you do 30 minutes of resistance exercise another couple of days a week. That's another hour. So you're doing about 2.5 to 3 hours a week. And that's pretty much what the guidelines say.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Cathie, for all of this valuable information. And thank you today for joining us. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of our viewers who are watching today. Please join us each week at 11 a.m. for our virtual Lunch and Learn with Ironwood. Thank you so much, and please take care.